Welcome to Purely Unprocessed, where we talk about all things food. My name is Vanessa, and in today's story, we're going to talk about Pepsi Co buying out Siete Foods, a small chip food company, for $1.6 billion, and why this matters to you and I as consumers that care about health and wellness. Now, you're probably familiar with Pepsi Co as being the company that owns Pepsi. That's pretty straightforward from their name. But Pepsi also owns a ton of other food products. They own Mountain Dew, Gatorade, Quaker Oats, Ocean Spray. They also own Aquafina, Pure Leaf, Evolve, Muscle Milk. So they're really diversifying their portfolio because historically, Pepsi Co has a history of selling us food products that are really not the healthiest. They're loaded with either a ton of sugar or preservatives, artificial sweeteners, artificial food dyes, just ingredients that are not healthy for us overall. And I think where we are at now in this health and wellness movement or space or awareness, that as consumers, we are looking for food products that are going to have ingredients that are good for us. We don't want foods that are ultra processed. And my biggest issue with Pepsi Co buying out Siete Foods, which if you're not familiar with Siete Foods was a company that was started by two siblings from a family of 7, I think based off in Texas. I think their background I believe they're Mexican, is what I'm trying to say. And it was sort of like bootstrapped, and their mission was more of a pure mission where one of the family members had some autoimmunity. They couldn't eat certain foods. So they developed tortilla chips and chips with ingredients that weren't that inflammatory or followed more of a paleo-ish, kind of diet. That was their origin story. And, it was a beautiful story. And I really like companies that are family owned or just like owned by people like you and me that care about people like you and me, that care about their foods, that care about what they're putting into the world, what they are selling. I like to support those companies, give my hard-earned dollars to those companies versus companies like Pepsi Co. Now, if you are a 90s kid, you probably 100% grew up eating these products owned by Pepsi Co. From Mountain Dew to Gatorade to Cheetos, Fritos, Doritos, Lay's, Ruffles. All of these different brands are owned by Pepsi Co. Pepsi Co has this track record of selling us foods, again, that are just not healthy for us. They're made with a ton of sugar. Don't get me wrong, they taste so good. They taste delicious. I am not arguing that. Do I want a bag of Doritos? Yes. Do I want to eat a bag of Cheetos? Yes. Have I in a while? No one's asking me, but no, mostly because I am kind of, I don't know if upset's the right word, but I just don't like consuming something that I'm not going to feel good about after. It's just that is not made with ingredients that make me feel good or that support where I'm trying to go with my health and wellness. And again, I think we live in a world where you're either faced with a lot of fast food spots or a lot of these foods that are just not good for us. So I don't like to support these companies that sell us food products where they're not really putting the consumer at the forefront. It's not so much about, selling us food products with ingredients that are good. It's just about selling us food that tastes good. And I 100% get that, but why can't you be a company that not only sells food products that taste good, but also that are going to be made with better ingredients? Like, one of the things that gets me about Pepsi Co and these other companies that are buying out these smaller food companies, that again have a good mission, care about the consumer, are selling food products with better ingredients. But then comes this huge company and buys them out. This huge company cares about their shareholders more than they care about the consumer. And when you do some research on Pepsi Co, in some of their statements, well, I don't have the exact quote, But in some of the things that I've read, it seems like PepsiCo obviously cares about their shareholders and wants to make money. And in my opinion, they will only reformulate their food products based on what the consumer wants. And one of their claims is that consumers are becoming more aware of health and wellness and are asking for better ingredients. And PepsiCo has these brands which are the Lay's, the Fritos, the Doritos, the Cheetos, the Mountain Dew, the Gatorade, the foods with a ton of different a ton of like sugar and like ingredients that are not good for us. But they're buying out these other companies like Siete Foods. They're also the owners of Bear, which is like this fruit chip company that's supposed to be better. They also own Evolve Based Protein, Muscle Milk. So they're buying out these other food brands that are for the consumers that are more aware. And I really think that that's kind of like a little bit of kind of like a slap in the face, because I don't think that one consumer wants more of the foods that are like healthier. I just think that the consumer that is not looking for those ingredients that are better for you, it's just a consumer that is not aware. Because if you told that consumer, hey, these ingredients are ultra processed and there's a ton of sugar and preservatives or artificial sweeteners, and that's not really good for your health based on like these studies, that consumer would be like, oh, let me go buy these other food products that have better ingredients. So I think it's a lack of awareness, but that's where you and I come in, as consumers, and being aware and sharing this information so a lot of people become aware, and we're able to vote with our dollars. My other issue with PepsiCo buying out Siete Foods is that, again, Siete Foods had a very humble and heartwarming story and start, and now they've been bought out by this huge corporation that, in my opinion, if push comes to shove, if they need to make money by switching off one of the ingredients in the Siete Food brand that maybe is not the best, it's not the healthiest, I don't have a doubt in my mind that they will switch that ingredient. And this is where you and I as consumers lose power, because if you have a food company that owns 20 different brands and they decide to switch their ingredients, like maybe they had some brands that had like better ingredients and other ones have like crappy ingredients like PepsiCo, but then they decide, oh, we're not making enough money, let's switch all of our ingredients to have inflammatory oils. What can you and I as consumers do when we don't have any other options out there? And that's like kind of my heart also, not that it aches, that's a little bit dramatic, but it kind of feels a little sad, because I really wish that these smaller food companies would just continue with their mission and not sell out, because it's just better for, I feel, us as consumers, because we would have these other options that we can count on, right? Because it's a smaller food company. But I totally understand, wanting to sell, working hard and wanting to cash out and, enjoy, the fruits of your labor. I totally get that. I just dislike that Siete Foods was sold to, PepsiCo. On the other hand, we can also argue that because you and I as consumers are becoming more aware about the ingredients in our foods, and we are voting with our dollars, that these companies like PepsiCo are starting to see, a dip in the sales of, some of their food products. Maybe we're not purchasing Pepsi as much as before because we are aware that it has a ton of sugar. Maybe we don't buy as many, Lay's or, Cheetos or Fritos because we are aware, maybe as, parents, that that's not the best food or snack for our children or for ourselves, right? So there's that other side to it, that since PepsiCo is this huge multinational company, I mean, they sell their food products in about 200 different countries and territories. And in 2024, they made about 92, let me get the right number. They made about $92 billion in 2024. And just to give you a comparison, in 2024, Tesla made $97 billion. So you have this technology car, whatever company making $97 billion, and you have a soda and a chip company making almost as much money. And we are talking about billions. And the reason why I'm like emphasizing this is because you and I, as a consumer, with our little, dollars, we have a lot of power. Every time that you buy Pepsi, or you buy Mountain Dew, or you buy even Bubbly is also owned by Pepsi Co. You are giving that money to Pepsi Co. So you are voting with your dollars. And my sometimes not anger, but animosity with PepsiCo is that if I buy your food product, you then turn around and sell me this food product with crappy ingredients. I don't want that. I think we need to be in a place now where when we buy something that's going to be good for us, and then that company takes that money and like sells us products that are good for us. And if that doesn't sound good with like capitalism or whatever, then whatever, I don't know. But that's how I feel about food and food products. So my hope with PepsiCo buying Siete Foods is that they're going to maintain the quality of the Siete Food brand, that they're not going to come in, change up the ingredients or change anything up. Just keep it going, grow it, but with the same quality of ingredients. This is what we as consumers want. We are tired of buying food products that are going to make us sick. We are tired of it, and we are going to vote with our dollars. Now, if you are somebody who was someone like me who was already buying Siete Foods, we just have to keep an eye out on the ingredient list, make sure that it does not change, and hold the company accountable. If it does change, we can always reach out to the company with comments. I don't know how much that would help, or we can just use our dollars to speak for us, to not buy the food product. Because the truth is, I think PepsiCo, in buying some of these food companies with better for you ingredients, I think they are realizing that us as consumers, we are looking at the ingredients. We do care about these things, and to some extent we are voting with our dollars, right? If they are willing to purchase this chip company for $1.6 billion, it means that they know that we are paying attention. So PepsiCo, we are looking. We are keeping an eye out on the ingredients. Do not change anything in the Siete Foods. We like them just the way that they are. Okay, guys, that is it for today. I will see you on the next one.